Hello, this is Ruslan Belov. Let's start with the Pavlovka direction, in the area of responsibility of the Vostok Group, the settlements of Otradnoye, Komar and Alexievka. The day before, Ukrainian forces were pushed out of Otradnoye, but the Kiev command on this sector, likely not wanting to upset their superiors in advance with news of a major defeat of the army in the lower reaches of the Volkhya River, is forcing its brigades to launch suicidal attacks in an attempt to at least partially regain control of both Otradnoye and Bogatyr, military analyst Yuri Podolyaka reports. This is proving very costly for Kiev, but for someone, their seat in office is clearly worth more. Meanwhile, Russian units have intensified pressure near Alexievka and are advancing on Komar. Overall, the situation on this section of the front continues to deteriorate rapidly for the Ukrainian Armed Forces, AFU. In the area of responsibility of the Center Group, the situation evolved after units of the 90th Tank Division reached the border of Dnipropetrovsk region. Russian forces are focusing their efforts on securing the flanks. In line with this strategy, Russian troops moved south of Orakov and south of Bogdanovka yesterday, thereby securing the right flank of the offensive near Alexievka, which lies further south. There is also continued pushing of the AFU out of Novonikolayevka and Sergeyevka, although the fighting there is tough. Kyiv is constantly bringing in reinforcements and trying to hold this defensive line. On the Mirnograd-Toretsk section, the Ukrainian front continues to buckle and retreat. As was predicted yesterday, Ukrainian forces have withdrawn from the settlement of Shevchenko-Pervoye. There is also progress in Poltavka, moving toward Rusin Yar. On the map today, we see strong color changes. Confirmations were received that Russian forces have taken these areas under their control. Slightly to the east, the clearing of Yablunovka is gradually underway. The fields south of the village are coming under Russian army control. It also became known today that Russian troops have entered the settlement of Zarya, which is currently being cleared. Once completed, the fields to the south will automatically come under Russian control. In short, there is currently no talk of frontline stabilization, not even approximately. On the contrary, the operational crisis of the AFU is deepening, and accordingly, the threat of encirclement of their group in Konstantinovka is growing. The Russian army is advancing toward Konstantinovka along a broad front, storming Romanovka, Stara Nikolaevka, and Popov Yar. Active assault and clearing operations are underway in Romanovka, with most of the village under control. After securing Alexandropol, Russian forces are confidently advancing north and south. Following the capture of Nova Poltavka, Russian units have penetrated up to 3 kilometers deep into AFU defenses to the north and west. On the Chasov Yar axis, the Russian Ministry of Defense reported that Stupochki has been brought under control. Stupochki lies south of Chasov Yar, directly on the highway to Konstantinovka. Essentially, south of that road, only one village, Pritichino, remains before reaching the city of Konstantinovka. The battle for Pritichino will largely determine the continuation of the Konstantinovka operation and speed up the assault on Chasov Yar itself, where Ukrainian forces still partially hold the Shevchenko workshop number 2 and southern neighborhoods. Before Pritichino, just past Stupochki, there are several major fortified positions to which AFU units have fallen back. One of these is located directly on the road behind a crossroads. However, near the Gruskaya River at the entrance to Pritichino itself, there are no major fortifications, except for a defensive line terminating at a water barrier. On the Gulye-Pol direction, Ukrainian forces have been pushed out of Novopol, and the village is being cleared. The fighting for Zelenoye Pol is also nearing its end, which will bring Russian forces to the Dnipropetrovsk border here as well, according to the military analyst. Reports have emerged that Russian forces have entered the village of Yunakovka. Yunakovka is the administrative center of the Yunakovsky Village Council. It is also reported that Russian troops have taken control of the settlement of Lokhnya. Kharkiv direction, Kupiansk front. After securing the Dvorashensky bridgehead, Russian assault units are now threatening Kupiansk. They are acting very actively, according to Reserve Colonel Gennady Alekin. Over the past 24 hours, Redkovka and Kondrashovka have come under Russian control. These two settlements block the Kupiansk-Burluk road, which was used to supply Ukrainian forces. From the south of the Kupiansk sector, pressure is being exerted on AFU positions in Borovaya and Zagryzovo. Fighting is ongoing on the outskirts of Volchansk. It is currently a grey zone. Kyiv's defense there is fragmented. Battles are already taking place for Volchansk itself, near the Volchya River. Mercenaries from Latin America have been redeployed there. Medics and former soldiers were thrown into mobile groups operating along the Volchansk-Pisarevka-Liptsy line. Nighttime strikes were delivered along this line. Targets included the Chuguev airport area, the training center in Pisarevka, and columns of armored and engineering troops. To bolster defensive capabilities from an engineering standpoint, civil utility services from Kharkov are being involved. The line of contact on the northwest and southeast of Kharkov represents the AFU's defensive network, which Russian units are breaking through. The Russian army has managed to stretch the front across the entire Kharkov direction. The AFU has shifted from active defense to a static positional stance without any offensive actions. They are now focused on reinforcing defensive fortifications. Russia is pulling troops to the border with Kharkov region, reported by Sky News. After fully securing Kursk region, more than 50,000 Russian troops have reportedly concentrated at the Kharkov border, the outlet notes. Analysts suggest that a large-scale offensive prepared along the entire front line has been expected for some time but hasn't yet begun. They believe Russia has 4 months to break through before weather conditions deteriorate. The signs of Russia preparing for active offensive operations are evident, complained one Ukrainian commander to the publication. It is especially noted that Russia is redeploying its elite units, including airborne forces, VDV, to the border. A publication analyst, Professor Clark, believes Russia might be preparing a major offensive on Kharkov from Sumy. This could either be a direct assault on one of the cities, which would be difficult, or an attempt to seize a large portion of the surrounding territory, he notes. Yesterday in Odessa, an Iskander missile struck a container ship carrying military cargo, according to the Russian Ministry of Defense. The vessel was transporting military equipment to the port of Odessa. On board were about 100 containers filled with unmanned surface vessels, drones, and ammunition. A strike was also carried out on a container warehouse in the port. Additionally, it was reported that the Russian armed forces targeted one of Ukraine's key defense industry enterprises, the Antonov plant in Kharkiv, which also produces drones and missiles. The Russian armed forces launched a group strike with high-precision ground-based weapons and unmanned aerial vehicles on a Ukrainian military-industrial complex enterprise that manufactures missile weapons and strike drones, a radio-technical intelligence center, and a US-made Patriot missile defense system position, according to the Russian Ministry of Defense. Interestingly, a Ukrainian resident filmed the entire attack on video. It lasts over 3 minutes. If you want to witness the epic scene of a Patriot system trying to intercept Iskander ballistic missiles, you should head over to my Telegram channel. I'll include the link in the first comment. Russia is trying to win the war against Ukraine. In the 4th year of hostilities, German analyst Röpke has suddenly come to a realization. In the 4th year of the war, it becomes clear. Russia has a clear goal, to win the war, and is consistently restructuring its entire economy to achieve that goal, he writes. Russia can now use about 1,000 modern fiber-optic drones daily, in addition to conventional weapons. All of this is produced in Russian arms factories. The trend is accelerating. In the coming months, up to 2,000 drones per day are expected. The number of German strike drones is also steadily increasing. Currently, around 150 such drones are used daily, and this number could rise to 500 within a year. Russia is successfully outpacing all of Europe in terms of armament and military capability. According to German journalist Röpke, it's not just Washington that lacks political will, but especially Berlin, Paris, London, and most other European capitals. Yesterday, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán publicly stated that Ukraine is conducting intelligence operations on Hungarian territory, using its connections with the Hungarian opposition to promote its interests, particularly regarding EU accession. According to him, the government has video evidence of Ukrainian agents working to influence public opinion through opposition parties. The Hungarian leader is convinced that Ukraine is conducting disinformation campaigns to undermine confidence in the ongoing referendum on Ukraine's EU membership, which runs in Hungary until mid-June. The scandal has been ongoing for some time. Hungary previously expelled 2 Ukrainian diplomats accused of espionage, to which Ukraine responded in kind by expelling 2 Hungarian diplomats. Ukraine's SBU, security service, also claimed to have exposed a network of Hungarian military intelligence agents operating in the Zakarpattia region, further escalating tensions. Hungary is considered one of the EU's most problematic members, not so much due to its relatively friendly stance toward Russia, but rather because of Orban's warm relationship with Trump. For the globalists in Brussels, Kiev has become a convenient tool in their hybrid confrontation with Budapest. Europe is heading to war, financially. EU ambassadors have approved the creation of a special militarization fund totaling $150 billion. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Back in March, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced a massive program called Rearm Europe, $800 billion, to rapidly rearm the European Union. The plans include not only loosening fiscal rules, but also providing loans for weapons purchases and support for the defense industry. For comparison, the EU's entire 2024 military budget is $325 billion, including aid to Ukraine. Of the $800 billion, about $150 billion will go toward purchasing air defense systems, including the Patriot PAC-3 and HIMARS missiles. The remaining $650 billion is earmarked for increasing military budgets across EU countries by 1.5% of GDP and attracting private investment. These funds are intended for joint European-American defense projects, from tanks to ammunition, with a focus primarily on American equipment. However, there's a production bottleneck. Rheinmetall CEO Armin Paperger openly admitted that German factories simply cannot keep up with demand. In 2023, the corporation even declined to continue tank deliveries to Ukraine. Now it must focus on restoring the Bundeswehr's armored fleet, which a military audit described as being in dismal condition. A competitive market is expected among manufacturers from the US, Germany, Sweden, and South Korea. But what about the actual implementation of this colossal program? So far, it's unclear. Experts question its feasibility. Meanwhile, the EU is already slashing budgets meant for the development of poorer regions and plans to raise the public debt ceiling. New NATO members like Finland are announcing cuts to social programs in order to bolster defense spending. It seems the bourgeois comfort of Europeans is gradually becoming a thing of the past, even though the Rearm Europe program hasn't even kicked into full gear yet. Indeed, not all European countries will follow the path of Germany or especially Poland, where the emphasis is on increasing the size of the armed forces and expanding the organizational structure of the military branches. Nevertheless, it's fair to say that some countries are being assigned the role of soldiers, while others, workers at weapons factories. The latter category even extends beyond NATO borders, including countries like South Korea. Analyzing recent NATO military exercises and other indirect indicators, it appears that Europe is preparing for a full-scale war of a new type, and not just a defensive one. Thank you for watching and staying with us until the end. If you found this information valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. We read everything. Stay safe, stay informed, and see you in the next update. Take care.